Now, breaking right now, absolute humiliation for Private Eye editor Ian Hislop. And do you know what's so beautiful about this? Ian Hislop is one of those guys who hides behind his publication to pillory and destroy reputations on the right for the most sometimes innocent, innocuous acts. Well, did you see this Guardian headline earlier in the week? They were absolutely mortified because Ian Hislop, the great Ian Hislop, editor of Private Eye, had been subjected to some sort of assassination attempt outside his office while in a black cab in London. Whoopsie daisy. There was no gunshot. There was no assassin. There was simply a mechanical fault. Cue two mortifying statements that Hislop has released via Private Eye. The first, Ian Hislop wishes to thank everyone for their concern, which is greatly appreciated. He can confirm there was an incident in a taxi yesterday in which a rear window shattered and the police are investigating. They were initially looking into the possibility of a shot having been fired, but have now indicated that there may be another more innocent explanation for what happened. Their most recent press release is below, and the police said that they continue to investigate this incident. However, now, second statement, final statement, we're told from Hislop. The police investigating the incident in the taxi have now advised me that they have completed their forensic tests, have found no evidence of a firearm discharge, and will be concentrating their investigations on indications that a mechanical fault caused the window to shatter. Don't think we need the police investigating that. And you know what? I think this says a lot about the arrogance of Ian Hislop, that he's in a taxi, the back window shatters, and he immediately thinks, they're trying to shoot me.
Well,
You're not that important,
what,
mate.
It's not, Dan. I disagree. I think London's become so dangerous with gun and knife crime
Well,
that it's completely legitimate to think you're being shot at, whoever you are. That's just that. You know, I do feel. I genuinely, yes. I don't like going into London with my young family.
No, I agree with that.
Because I just wonder whether I'm going to have to get in the way of someone wielding a knife.
Yes, but the clear look, I totally agree in terms of the safety of London. I mean, I've actually been mugged twice in London, right? But the point about this is that he's sitting in a black cab, and the implication, because it was outside the Private Eye offices, right? So this wasn't this wasn't.
He thought it was a Charlie Hebdo.
Well, the implication was that this was not a this was not a coincidence. And I'm sorry to mock the guy, but you know what? That's what he does to everyone else, including in times of great horror.
I'll say about Hislop, it's a bit like Peter Oborne. And back in the day, they were sort of journalistic heroes of mine. I used to love what's the show? Not in the 9 o'clock news. What's it?
Oh, Have I Got News for You?
Say again?
Have I Got News for You?
Have I Got News for You? When Angus Deaton hosted it, you know, they pilloried everybody. But he is definitely one of those journalists that has just veered off into the left. I mean, Peter Oborne is completely gone. It's crazy. But, they were, the real standout journalists of their time some time ago. Perhaps not anymore.
No, Private Eye is no longer a credible news source. It's no longer a credible news source. They publish lie after lie, week after week, and it is a great shame. And then there's been another humiliation for a member of the mainstream media elite, Laura Kuenssberg, due to be interviewing Boris Johnson tonight on the BBC. If we are to believe her version of events, rather than send her production team her notes preparing for the show, she instead sent them direct to the former Prime Minister. This is what she had to say. While prepping to interview Boris Johnson tomorrow, by mistake, I sent our briefing notes to him and a message meant for my team. That obviously means it's not right for the interview to go ahead. It's very frustrating, and there's no point pretending it's anything other than embarrassing and disappointing, as there are plenty of important questions to be asked. But red faces aside, honesty is always the best policy. See you on Sunday. Now look, don't call me a conspiracy theorist, like the New Statesman decided to do this week, James. But is there a bit of a rat here? Do you smell a rat? Because I've done a lot of interviews, right? I've never sent my notes to the politician that I'm about to be interviewing. And what it makes me think, again, this is just a theory, I'll put that out there, but what it makes me think, because on WhatsApp, if you're messaging someone and you search for their name, I reckon she was having 2 conversations going on. one with Boris Johnson and one with her production team?
I think she comes across well. She's one of those journalists that's right stuck in the middle with the left hater and the right hater. And I think I think it's hard. We know the BBC has its views and it definitely dips left or centre. But I think she's one of the good ones. To be honest, I think it's an honest mistake. But I look back at Boris Johnson. Great campaigner, but I find it hard to forgive the fact that he opened the doors of this country to mass migration. And I know he's promoting his book now. He's going to try and
Unleashed.
But well, what he unleashed was migration.
I'm so torn on Boris.
People haven't held him to account. He's got away with it scot-free.
Well, but don't you think that's because, James, he did some incredible things? I mean, I totally agree with you that Nigel Farage is the Brexit hero, and with him, we would never have had the referendum in the first place. Absolutely, I give him credit for that. Likewise, if he hadn't stood aside in the 2019 general election. At the same time, we would have had Theresa May's Brexit deal if it wasn't for Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. So I think he did a lot of good things, but I think he was captured by the woke left on a lot of others, especially as well. On Nut Zero, on immigration.
Yeah, immigration is the big one because it's one of the harder things to reverse. When so many people come, so quickly, it's damaging our society, and we can see that. But look, on Boris, Nigel Farage himself will say that it was absolutely crucial to the referendum victory that he came along.
Yes.
He is a fantastic campaigner. He is just a real natural communicator, a people's person. But in government, okay, look, COVID was probably one of the most challenging things to deal with, and I'm glad I wasn't in government having to deal with that. But ultimately, so many manifesto commitments were reneged on or completely torn up. So I'll be very interested to see what his book has to say. And he's the ultimate spinner, but we should never get away from the fact that, under him, the Conservatives have handed, and it was him that, it's his fault that we've got into this position. Then we had disastrous leaders that the Conservatives have handed a massive majority to the Labour government. And now, as we were talking about earlier on the show, we've given up the Chagos Islands. The responsibility has to come back to Boris. You gave away a historic landslide, and now we're facing 5 years of Labour disaster.
I do want to read his book, though. I really do. I think it's going to be a hoot. But first, every day, subtle changes occur in our bodies, often going unnoticed. It's called inflammaging, a chronic low-growth inflammation that deteriorates our health as we get older. And it is more than just a sign of aging. It's a key contributor to health issues like cardiovascular disease, dementia and depression, and physical decline. It continually weakens the body's resistance, turning minor infections into severe and impacting mental health and cognitive function. Now, inflammaging significantly diminishes both quality of life and independence. Proper diet, exercise and sleep can only get you so far. So that's why I take Clean Being by Verso. It contains ingredients targeted to fight off and help prevent inflammaging. Research shows that these ingredients clean out damaged cells in the body that affect healthy cells, reduce inflammation, protect against oxidative stress, and improve conditions like cardiovascular diseases and neurological conditions. After taking Clean Bean for some time, on a personal level, I've noticed less joint pain, increased energy, better mood, and clearer skin. I can think better, I don't get as sick as I did before, and these are all benefits of reduced inflammation. Plus, Verso ensures transparency and quality by publishing third-party testing results for each batch they produce, so you know you're getting exactly what you pay for. So click the link in the description on YouTube or Rumble, or head on over to buy.ver.so and use the coupon code Outspoken at checkout to save 15% on your first order. We'll just repeat the address now, buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code Outspoken for a big 15% off discount. The link is in the show notes. Do you know what? So I have my phone here just so I can chat to my team and see any breaking news and that sort of thing. I am not kidding you. So, I literally just said a minute ago, the New Statesman, go to hell, because you described me as a conspiracy theory this week. Not kidding. This moment, an email from the New Statesman pops into my account. Dan Wootton, an invitation from the editor of the New Statesman. Nope, he can go to hell.
What's the invitation?
I've got no idea. I've literally just deleted it at that moment. So I just can't believe that. No, they wrote a horrible piece. I spoke at the Together Declaration third anniversary event, must have been a week ago now. They're an incredible organisation, and this was just a revolting, nasty hit piece trying to describe people who are anti-lockdown, anti-ULEZ, question nut zeros, conspiracy theorists, the laziest type of journalism. The New Statesman will die just like the rest of the mainstream media is dying. And actually, on that note, I'm desperate to talk to you about your new film, Afghanistan, because obviously the concept is really interesting in terms of what the film is. We'll talk about that in one moment. What's particularly interesting to me as someone who is on Substack and has really embraced this free speech platform, you're actually going to be releasing the movie direct via Substack later this month.
That's
is that
correct.
right?
Yeah, so I mean,
I love that.
What's clearly Substack has reinvented journalism.
Yes,
journalism
it has.
hasn't it? Because it's allowed people to go direct to the consumer, and if you want more of that writer and the way they operate, you can subscribe to it. It's essentially a different version of YouTube. Now, Substack is now experimenting with video content. And you'll see, and I don't agree, by the way, with this chap, Mehdi Hassan, on many issues, but he's launched ZTO, and it's had huge numbers of views on some of the documentaries that they have put on the platform. So essentially, it's direct to the consumer. If you want to watch this film that they've released, you can watch it on Substack, and Substack helps promote it. So, what we're seeing at the moment is a big realignment of the broadcasting industry. The numbers, the viewership on the likes of ITV, mainstream media, BBC it's a catastrophe for them. They can't get the advertising revenue anymore, and people are turned off by broadcasters who have what is essentially a very woke ideology, and they design films in a certain way. You have to have diversity quotas and all these other rules and regulations and how you make it. Now, filmmakers have the opportunity to make a film in the way you want it, put it onto Substack, and if people enjoy it, they can
I think it's great. I think it's really great because look at this week. All of Westminster is talking about Starmer's secret. I'm one of the only journalists in the country, alongside Isabel Oakeshott, Paul Staines from Guido Fawkes and Mike Graham on Talk. We're probably the only journalists in the country who actually believe that our readers and our viewers have a right to know what all of those folk in Westminster are talking about. But tell me about the film itself, because is it about the withdrawal?
Well, it wasn't. What happened was, I served in Afghanistan. I did 3 tours, and
it's because you were a special Marine, right?
I was a Royal Marine.
Royal Marine, yes.
As a
and in the special boat services.
No, I was in the Royal Marines.
Royal Marines, okay.
People speculate stuff as an officer in the Royal Marines, and so in those I did all 3 tours as a combat commander, fighting on all 3 of them
in Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And lost men. And when I about 5 or 6 years later, as I started to grow up as a civilian, because I'd been in the military since 18 years old, so my entire identity was based around being a military, being Royal Marine, and I started to question Afghanistan, British and American foreign policy, and the good that we had done when I was in the military. So I decided to go back to Afghanistan with a very small film crew, travel around the country, and start asking the Afghans, is life better or worse than before 2001, which is when 9/11 happened and Britain and America invaded Afghanistan and got rid of the Taliban. So we were traveling around, living with the people, eating their food, wearing their clothing, and enjoying their hospitality. Whilst I was there, Biden announced the withdrawal of all US troops by September the 11th, 2021.
Oh, man.
And so our film completely changed from being what's life like in Afghanistan after 20 years of war to watching hell unfold as people desperately tried to get away as the Taliban took over. So we are the last filmmakers to document life of free Afghanistan, of what life was like before the Taliban came back. No one else was out there filming the lives of people. I went skiing with young women who were able to ski and mountain bike, went cycling in the mountains. We went out to the front line with the soldiers, went to the Panjshir with the old Northern Alliance, who were with the son of the great commander Ahmed Shah Massoud. We witnessed real life in Afghanistan. And so if you want to understand what life was like in Afghanistan compared to what it's like now under the Taliban, and see the horrible chain of events of people panicking to leave, we captured that in what is a historic documentary.
Well, I cannot wait to watch it. James Glancy, thank you so much for being here today. And Afghanistan, released later this month via Substack. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I've put some of the links in the show notes below this video. Keep watching our Outspoken clips to support this independent news venture with no spin, no bias, and no censorship, unlike the MSM. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.